And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Deep red. We don't need any more of these.
Good early morning. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is once again getting ready to launch a batch of Starlink satellites, 28 of them on Starlink 10-28, quite appropriately. I am Sawyer Rosenstein, and I will be your host for this morning's stream. But it's good to be back. We haven't had a launch in like 6 days, which feels like an eternity at this point. So let's bring on the team that will be joining me, my competent cohort of co-hosts, including Alex. How's it going, Alex?
Hello, Sawyer, and hello, everyone. Yeah, I had to be, I guess, here back on the saddle for after a July 4th Falcon 9 launch again, right? It feels like an eternity, but it's not been that much, actually.
Yeah, it still feels so long, though. I'm sure it feels like a long time, especially to the team out in the field tonight. That is Max. How's it going, Max?
Good. I was about to say good evening, but it is indeed morning here on the east coast of Florida. So good morning, everybody. And yeah, welcome back to the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It has been, it's weird to say that a 6-day gap feels like an eternity around these parts nowadays. So it is good to be back, and we're glad to have you.
Exactly, and I'm so glad that SpaceX chose to launch at a normal human hour when everyone is totally wide awake and when the air isn't thicker than butter. Oh, wait. We'll get to the weather. We'll get to the weather in just a moment. But tonight, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, we actually thank the producers here when I'm on host is Carson. And a reminder, if you have any questions, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight, and we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can. So let's kick things off with the big factor, because I'm hosting. You know what we got to do. Everyone type it in chat. Say it with me. This is not your ordinary Starlink launch. In fact, Alex, this is, I know we've used a lot of 500s, the 500th Falcon family, the 500 this and that. This is the actual 500th Falcon 9 orbital launch, right?
Yeah, so because people are watching, this is you gotta be here for the ride, right? You're gonna have 500 until we've exhausted every single 500. No, I'm joking, but that's the fun of following stats and things like that. Especially with Falcon 9, there's like multiple different round numbers that you can follow. We had last month the 500th overall launch of Falcon. Then we had the 500th successful launch of the Falcon family of rockets. Then we had just last week the 500th Falcon 9 mission and 500th Falcon 9 launch. This is the 500th Falcon 9 orbital launch. So that is without counting the in-flight abort test. The next milestone. Just warning people. I know there's at least two next 500, I guess, which will be the 500th successful Falcon 9 launch, and then the 500th successful orbital launch. So there you go. So just prevent people already. Get already to see that and hear that in the next few launches. But yeah, it's another round number mission, I guess. But it's also Starlink, so there's another 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites going up and things like that. We can talk about that as many times as people want to as well.
Yes, as Joel put in chat there, or this is not your ordinary Starlink launch. Who was it that put it in there? This is not your ordinary 500th launch. There you go, Paul
Yeah,
saying
from
that.
Paul.
That was a good one. But yes, we'll get into the semantics of it in a little bit. But the one thing I do want to get to first is the booster on your screen tonight. Max, can you help us out with the booster and our downrange assets for the morning?
Absolutely. So currently on the docket over at Slick 40 on your screens is Falcon 9 first stage B1077. And tonight is its 22nd assigned flight and hopefully completed flight in just under 1 hour's time. Its flight history includes the likes of Crew 5, GPS 3 SV06, Inmarsat I6 F2, CRS 28, Intelsat G37, NG20, TD7, and 14 previous Starlink missions, tonight being its 15th. So 22 flights is certainly nothing to snuff at, and it is far from a youngin nowadays, now wearing many layers of soot across both RP1 and liquid oxygen tanks. Hopefully, at around 8.5 minutes into flight, the first stage booster will be touching down on the first stage, on the drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, stationed about 600 kilometers downrange, and stationed a bit farther than that, hoping and aiming to scoop the fairings out of the water following their separation and reentry, is Doug. So just the normal SpaceX assets out in the Atlantic this evening. Nothing brand new or unusual on that part, but 22 flights for a booster is certainly nothing to snuff at.
That is for sure. But one thing that we probably should be snuffing at, or at least probably shouldn't stuff, because the air right now tonight, I could say it's the same where I am right now, but by you, Max, I'm sure the air is quite thick with the humidity. What are we looking at weather-wise tonight?
Yeah, it is a bit like soup out here tonight. And the past week, especially here on the Space Coast, has been rather wet and stormy. So there is a ton of moisture in the area just in general. Currently, the forecast put out from the 45th Weather Squadron based over at Patrick Space Force Base is calling for only a 10% chance of weather violation this evening throughout the launch window, which actually opened just before 2 a.m. local time. So we are already pretty far into the window. But one of the benefits of launching at these ungodly hours of the night and morning is that the atmosphere and the overall weather here on the Space Coast is just a lot more stable. As you can see, the upper level risk criteria and solar activity are both rated as low concern. However, booster recovery weather about 600 kilometers downrange or so is low to mid. So that must mean there must be some chop out there, maybe some other weather, goodness gracious, that might be getting in the way, but obviously they feel confident enough so far to be pushing ahead for a launch attempt this morning. So fingers crossed. We know there was a tropical storm that just went out or was just in the area ish of where the assets currently are stationed, but that should have been cleared out well by now. But that doesn't have to mean that the seas would have calmed down all the way. There probably still is some chop out there and probably not the most comfortable, but as long as they are within tolerance to get a first stage booster down and landed, that's all that matters.
And I think that's actually something kind of important that we don't talk about all the time is the fact that with these landings, that is part of the mission success at this point. So landing that booster is very important. It's not just, oh, it's a nice secondary objective anymore. Alex, if I remember rightly, there is actually stipulation in their launch license that the landing has to basically happen successfully or it can be considered a mishap, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much what we saw, for example, last year with the B1062 landing failure. And we also saw that as well with Blue Origin, with New Glenn, right? They lost the booster during entry, and that was considered, a mishap, like at least an event that necessitated a mishap investigation. So, yeah, that's part of the licensing rules of spaceflight nowadays.
Yeah, I remember it used to be, oh, it'd be cool if it landed. Oh, it's a secondary objective. Oh, maybe if we're lucky. Now it's part of the mission. It's part of success. So that's why it's so important that the landing weather also be good.
Yeah, there are obviously, some exceptions, like if you lose the booster after it has already landed. Well, it already landed. Like, for example, SpaceX lost the booster in, I think it was February or early March, that, it landed, but then it had a fire afterwards. And so it came like charred and melty and everything. But it happened after landing. So the FAA is hands off after that. So
That also happened to booster B1058, our beloved. That fell
what I-
over off of the drone ship when it came into rougher seas than I guess teams were expecting, and the booster just toppled over, even though it was secured. So a rather unfortunate set of criteria in there for a Falcon 9 having to endure sometimes, but that's just the way it goes, unfortunately, and it just so happened to be 1058, unfortunately. But SpaceX has their ways of nailing down these boosters onto the drone ship decks, and first and foremost, it's probably beneficial to be avoiding all the high swell areas in general if you can.
Yeah, I thought you were just bringing up the wound, just throwing salt in the wound, Alex. Just, yeah, remind us of 1058. Goodbye, meatball and worm booster.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, if
Doug.
if there's a way to go out, though, I kind of I like, if I were a booster, I would prefer it the B1058 way, because B1086, the other one that I just mentioned, right, the one that developed a fire. Geez, that poor booster saw a lot of damage, unfortunately.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there slightly, Alex, because if you lose if a booster just topples off over your drone ship, to me that's just, it seems undignified, kind of like having to shoot somebody in the back. It's undignified and it's not gentlemanlike, I guess you could say. I don't know. It just feels like
You're more of dueling, right?
Yeah,
Kind of
exactly. You're right. I'd rather lose a booster post stage separation or somewhere before landing, just so any of the assets downrange are not at risk. But we've talked about this a lot, haven't we? This is a far deeper conversation for a Starlink mission than we have normally gotten into recently.
It's 3:34 a.m. Eastern time. What do you expect?
Yeah, fair, true.
There's plenty worse things we could be talking about, or worse, like Mr. Fluffy says, you know what keeps people awake on the East Coast? Singing. No, Kevin, don't get any. We're not doing that. Also, Kevin, why are you awake and typing in chat? No, not answering your questions. Excessively salty. Couch Captain, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Appreciate that. And Ace, thank you, or Pad Rat member. And Ace, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Reminder, Capcom at above gets access to the NSF Discord, including the Flame Trench pre and post show that we do there. There's some cool members multi-views for certain launches, especially for crew launches and ones where we get cool video feeds. So thank you very much for that. Speaking of just crew launches, it doesn't seem like there's much on the schedule. There's like one more mission and then Crew 11, it looks like, at this rate. Otherwise, there's a whole bunch of NET July. What's going on with that, Alex? Hypnotic was asking, why is this one of the last launches of the month? There's barely any in July.
It is definitely not the last, not even one of the last launches of the month. This is the third launch of the month. I will expect more than 10 launches this month. And the whole reason is just that, we based a lot of these launches on notices to airmen, things like that, navigational warnings and whatnot. And the whole reason why you don't see a lot of those is because there's just not a lot of those for upcoming missions. It used to be until very recently, and I don't know why this has changed, that sometimes we got notices for like 3 or 4 Starlink missions down the line, even with Starlink, right? Like Starlinks usually come up very unnoticed, essentially, right? Until there's a notice, right? I guess that's sort of the irony of that. There's like some marine notice, airspace notice, whatever, right? And until very recently, like, we used to have these missions like 3 or 4 missions down the line. And so it was very helpful because then it gave you an idea at least of the next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks of launches for SpaceX from both coasts as well. That you can see that there's nothing from the West Coast, for example, right? For SpaceX, and that's another one of those things. There's like a potential for the Tranche 1 Transport Layer B mission, for example, to happen in July, but it's but that's why it's net July. Like there's no firm date for that because there's like no firm date announced for it. Same thing with a Tracers mission as well. So from the West Coast, for example, there might be like a little bit of a lull there in the sense that maybe they are upgrading the pad. They sometimes take a week or two of the year to upgrade their pads. At Slick 40, the launch pad that we are having the launch from today, that one had a also like a bit of a stand down at the beginning of the year in January, with like a couple of months turnaround between some of the missions, precisely to stand down and upgrade some of the and not just upgrade, but like routine maintenance, because this pad, for example, just this year alone has supported more than 30 missions already, and it's halfway through the year. So it means like maybe the total will be 60, 70 launches just this year alone. So sometime in that many amount of launches, you got to step down and be like, okay, let's fix all of the things that we sort of left behind, that just sort of deferred, and try to keep going. It's sort of like, I guess, like airplane maintenance. Sometimes you fly with tape and things like that on some of the places, and once the plane enters its scheduled maintenance period, then all of the things get fixed and repaired and properly put together and whatnot. So similarly, the same is happening here. But again, as I was saying, there are missions. There are lots of missions that we expect this month. It's not going to be an exception unless there's a failure. But knock on wood, we don't repeat what happened last year in July. Maybe we can talk about some of those upcoming missions later in the broadcast if anybody has any questions. Because there's like Kuiper, there's some mystery mission later this week as well. Some internet satellites as well after Kuiper. For SES, if you have any questions, the drill. Tag at NASA Spaceflight, and we'll try to answer that. Talking while muted, Sawyer.
Yes, thank you. Where were you last year in July?
Well, this time last year, I was actually about to see a launch because that was the Turksat launch. I think it was this time last year. But yeah, last year, there was this thing called, I guess I should add, there was this thing called July 4th holiday, right? So that's why they didn't launch this weekend. Yeah. And because of that, it was Turksat 6A July 8th. Yeah, I was right. And the next launch from Vandenberg was a failure, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But they also took a 2-week stand down there. That the mission prior to that one was like 2 weeks before on the West Coast. So I would expect something similar happening. But yeah, July 4th also in play for all of this because people need to get some rest. They really deserve it.
Yeah, I guess they deserve some time off. No, we want more launches. Well, they're about to get really busy right now because we are coming up on 40 minutes-ish until launch. Max, what are we expecting in the coming minutes here?
Yeah, we are coming up on a milestone that is critical for the rest of the countdown, which is at T-minus 38 minutes. The SpaceX launch director will poll and verify if all systems, both on the vehicle and on the ground, are go to proceed with propellant loading. And assuming that the go is given at T-minus 35 minutes, both stage 1 RP1 and liquid oxygen load, and as well as stage 2 RP1 load, will commence at that T-minus 35 minute mark, and we should see visual confirmation with frost on the bottom of the LOX tank here on the first stage around T-minus 32 or 33 minutes time, and we should not have an issue with that tonight because it is incredibly humid. The frost should be incredibly vivid and visible, and obviously there is a lot of soot for the white frost to contrast against. So it should not be difficult to tell visually if they are going to proceed with prop load at that point. Following that, when once stage 2 RP1 load completes, They will begin thermally conditioning the lines in the transporter erector at T-minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds, which is what the big vent, or the best vent is that we call it, is when they are essentially thermally conditioning the lines for stage 2 liquid oxygen load, and that will commence at around T-minus 16 minutes time. But we still have a lot to do in between now and then, and hopefully the go will be given in just about over 1 minute.
That sounds good. And yes, the frost will be very visible, but I saw some people asking, where will this booster be visible? Max, what direction are we going tonight?
So I'm still having to get used to this change in trajectory, because with the Group 6 and the Group 12 shells that have been launching ever so prevalently over the past year or 2 years or so, which have all been flying southeast. Tonight, Falcon 9 is heading off on a northeast trajectory at about a 53-degree inclination. So if you are north of Cape Canaveral, say Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, Jacksonville, going all the way up through the coast of Georgia and into the Carolinas, there is a really good chance that you can get a visual on tonight's launch. Whether or not you will have cooperating weather is a different question, but assuming you do, look out towards your southeastern skies, or just your eastern skies at that point, and look out for, I believe at that point, it will be just Falcon 9's second stage. So, yes, it is going northeast tonight. A pleasant change here visually for us here at the press site, and I'm sure for many of those north of Cape Canaveral as well. But yes, there should be a bunch of people north of us who will have a visual of tonight's launch.
And oh, continue. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, and you can see the trajectory there with the next spaceflight app using data powered by Flight Club, and you could see it right there. You'll be able to track it in real time in the app too, but that is the trajectory it goes in. Keep in mind though, the higher up that it goes at that point, you may have to look a little bit lower on the horizon as it goes more towards the northeast.
And the thing that I was going to mention is, if it goes that far down range, there's a good chance that towards the end of the second stage burn, you might have jellyfish effect.
True, I forgot about that.
Because it's late enough that maybe up the coast, it might be already light up there at the insertion altitude. So, never hurts taking a look, just in case if you are there and are still awake or are about to be awake. I don't know, like whatever end of the waking you are located, right, in time. So get a coffee or something.
Yeah, Max and I are on the about to sleep side. You were on the just waking up side.
Yep, I am. But it's 9:44 here, so it's okay.
Now, I saw Kevin Michael Reed ask this question, but I'm going to go with the one from Severin, which is very similar. They're asking, Alex, is there a planned point where SpaceX has enough Starlinks in orbit for global coverage and just stops launching them, or will they keep going? More internet, more better.
They already have enough Starlinks in orbit for global coverage. The difference is that, launching more of them allows each of the antennas on the ground to be able to see more of them, so your coverage is even less uninterrupted. And also the receivers, the user terminals, they are able to see multiple, they are able to receive signals from multiple satellites at the same time, which effectively means that you can have a higher bandwidth with that. And so that means that, certain antennas, for example, the performance user antenna, is able to do that. And so it's able to have higher bandwidth and higher, data rates, for example. There's other types of antennas that, that SpaceX uses as well, but and have even higher data rates, but those use different stuff for that. But yeah, there you can see the Jonathan McDowell website with this big table of different stats of Starlink missions, whether they have re-entered because they failed early, because they were disposed of after a few years in orbit, and then those are still in orbit, whether they seem to still be working because they are still moving around, those that seem to have already moved into their operational orbits. There's this whole list of different, classifications that Jonathan McDowell uses. But bottom line is they've launched already more than 9,000 of these satellites. There's more than 7,000 already in their operational orbit, and like about 1,000 or so that are moving towards those operational orbits. And so, it takes a while once they launch these satellites to get to their positions because they use Hall effect thrusters. Those are very low thrust. So it takes a while for them to build up all of the forces and whatnot. And they also have like different checkout altitudes. Like sometimes they stop satellites are like 350 kilometers so that, they can check out, do testing on them, and do all sorts of wild stuff to them and make sure that, they're going to be good for the next 5 years, right? Which is sort of their expected lifetime. And yeah, that's the thing. They have enough coverage, but if you want to have a better service for your customers, you launch more satellites. That's how it goes. And that's essentially the way that they're doing it. Also, because a lot of these satellites, like the early satellites, for example, are not as good as the Starlink V2 minis. They are the older V1.0 and V1.5 satellites, so they're replacing them as well. And that's neat because that means, you get more quality of your service, not just because there are more, but also because they are better.
And that goes along with Alan's question asking how many Starlinks are in orbit. So I believe you gave a rough number there.
Yep. I can link to the website. It takes a while to sort of take in what everything means. Don't get too overwhelmed. You just don't need to really understand literally everything. But if you have enough time, you might as well. If you're curious, I guess.
Speaking of time, we are now about 33 minutes to go until launch, which means at this point we should be getting close to seeing frost on the bottom of the vehicle. So NSF is now in Frost Watch.
Is that like Baywatch?
Oh gosh, no.
Frost Watch.
Just because it's 3:45 a.m. Eastern doesn't mean we can go all Baywatch on this. I do not want to see Falcon 9 in a swimsuit. We have to see Jack in one. That's bad enough.
I see vapor.
I do too.
There we go.
That looks like confirmation that propellant load is well underway.
Exactly. And a reminder that with propellant load underway, they are committed to the T0 of, disappointingly, 4:21 a.m. Eastern Time tonight. That is 32 minutes from now. And so with that, stage 1, stage 1 and stage 2, RP1 load underway. Stage 1 liquid oxygen load also underway. What was that chuckle for, Alex?
Because Carson said on the back channel, we need the breaking news stinger, but for Frostwatch. Breaking frost.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then it's blue instead of red. I don't know.
Oh, jeez. Also, Kevin keeps asking why his questions aren't getting asked. These are his questions. So if Booster 1077 is launching Starlink today, or is it just stretching its legs on the way to its AARP meeting? Kevin, people outside the US aren't even going to get that joke. But while we're talking about outside the US, Paul Graves has a really interesting question here. They're asking, and I'll throw this one to you, Max. With everyone now working on reusable rockets, ESA, China, Honda, is Roscosmos building a reusable version of Soyuz?
Not Soyuz per se, but they are working on a reusable launch vehicle itself. I cannot recall the name of it off the top of my head, but its design is very much inspired by Falcon 9. I think that much is fair to say, but it is an entirely new rocket and an entirely new spacecraft that is going to be going with it. Although I think that they are still many years away from flying it, as we have not heard many updates on it, last I checked at least. So, yes, they are. We will have to look up imagery online to pull it up to see how that looks, because I can't recall it off the top of my head again. But yes, they are, just like many others. But I think we are still ways out from seeing it actually launch or working in operation.
There we go. And I do just want to point out, yeah, you've got all the other companies that are working on reusable. There's a lot of really cool small companies working on things like, especially over in Europe, right, Alex?
Yeah, there's a few working on reusable stuff. You're trying to tie me in with Europe's future in space, right?
Maybe.
So yeah, we've had some of the European companies that are pursuing reusable rockets and whatnot already on Europe's future in space. But this week we have another show of Europe's future in space. This one will be with Pangea Aerospace from Spain and France. And we're gonna have the CEO on NSF, and they're gonna be talking all about air spikes, reusable air spikes, which reusability and all that ties in very well with that show. So if you like air spikes, don't miss it. It's gonna be at 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. That should be 8 p.m. Central European time for those that maybe from Europe, right? And might be interested in watching that. I'm sure there's probably going to be a lot more Europeans in chat right now because it's 9, almost 10 a.m. rather than 4 a.m. in Eastern time. But I don't know. Maybe there are some late nighters from the Pacific coast of the United States. I don't know. Like, where are you all watching from?
Yeah.
Just curious now.
Which I do want to thanks to people. I know one person who just became a PADRAT member is on the West Coast. Kip on the ground. Again, this is not NSFU. This is my view. I absolutely love his streams. I'm a huge flight simmer. He does awesome flight sim stuff. Kip, thank you for becoming a PADRAT member. And Bideford, we also love Bideford here very much. I think that's also an unbiased, everyone believes that view. Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Very much appreciate that.
See, I'm looking at chat. There's a bunch of European people. Spain, hello. But there's also like people from Missouri, New Jersey. There's also Washington, Maryland. So yeah, I hope you guys have
Australia.
coffee or Australia. Nice.
Someone who's incorrect about the West Coast being the best coast. They're wrong. It's the East Coast's best coast. Sorry. There we go. See? East Coast, best coast. Thank you, Gabriel. Mr. Fluffy, best coast represent? As long as you're talking about the East Coast, then yes, best coast is representing tonight. D's still in Starbase. We don't have to worry about them saying the West Coast is better, Junk. So
Wyoming coast.
The Wyoming coast, yes.
New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
Can
Here's
confirm.
a good question, Alex. Also from Severin. That I want to throw at you. They're asking, why do some Starlink missions carry 27 and others carry 28? Wouldn't it be more efficient to launch as many as possible every single time? Because this is a 28, and even before the stream, you and I, we were talking about it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, this one is 28, not 27.
Yeah, it caught me a little bit by surprise because I defaulted to 27. And then I was like, wait, it's 28, not 27. It's the rare one. There was another Group 10 mission also with 28. I'm going to go with my best guess, and it is based on some comments by SpaceX officials at Starlink about, that comment was in relation with the direct-to-cell constellation, but I'm imagining that it's probably the same with a regular Starlink constellation, which is, when you want to spread out the satellites, right, around the globe, you have the inclination as one of your things that you can vary, right? Like there's 43 that we've seen some Group 6 missions and the Group 12 missions as well. But then there's also, Group 10 missions going to 53-degree inclination. But then in the same inclination, you can have like the orbit inclined the same way, but in different orientations around the Earth's pole, right? And so that means you have lots of options to have different different orbits are the same inclination, but are all shifted some phase, right, between each other, some distance between each other. And so that means on each of those planes, as it's called, orbital planes, you can put a set number of satellites. And so what you normally want when you're launching batches of these satellites is that either all or a fraction of them go to the same plane. And then if it's a fraction, then there's going to be another fraction that's going to move, and it's going to try and sort of separate away and go to a different of these orbit orientations, right? As I call them. And so I'm mostly sure this is all to do with that, where, you try to distribute the amount of satellites that you have in each of these planes. And so like maybe you're launching 28, 27, 27, for example, because there's like, I don't know, whatever 28 plus 27 plus 27 adds up to, right? And this is also why we see sometimes a series of missions from the same group that are usually around the same time of the day. Like I think there was another question about why is it that they're launching at this time, right? And we've seen recent Group 10 missions also around this time of the day. But then we have like another 2 or 3 missions that are in the middle of the day, in the afternoon, and then we have to dodge all of the bad weather in Florida. And so I think it is all down to that, where they launch a few of these missions, and all of the satellites go to the same of these orbits, right? And then they distribute themselves. And so sometimes they need 27, sometimes they need 28 to be able to make up the maths to get the correct number of satellites that they want for their coverage and things like that.
Yeah, and Johan pointing out, remember when we had 63 Starlinks for each launch?
63 wasn't 60? I thought
there was 62, 63. I think the most they got was 63 at one point.
I'll have to look it up. I think the maximum that we ever got was 60. But yeah, I'll try and look that up.
Let's see here. There's a couple questions from Saad that I want to hit here. First one, I want to throw this one back to you, Alex, one more time, saying, is it just me or do most Starlink launches happen at night?
Yeah, it goes back to the theory that I just tried to explain, right? That sometimes you get like a string of a few missions that are in the middle of the night. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day. Sometimes it's in the morning. Again, recently we've had a few missions, and I know that very well because I've been the one commentating on them. Where it's been here like 7 a.m. in Europe, maybe 7, 8 a.m. right, and that's being usually like 1, 2 a.m. Eastern time. And again, there's also been sometimes a few missions that are being like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern and things like that. And so it's probably down to that, to hitting the correct orbit in space for them to spread out all of these satellites around the globe efficiently, because that's what you want, right? Like if you have all of your satellites in the same sort of orbital place, right, then at the end of the day you just have good coverage on one part of the globe, but not a good, well spread out coverage, I guess.
Yeah. I'm sure people would appreciate more normal human hours, but
yeah,
L.V.
It'll come at some point. It'll come. It's okay. There'll be a few more missions at some point that will be at normal hours. I'm hopeful.
Hey, my prince will come. Yes. Here's one from 98 Central. Max, at what point do you consider a mission to be 100% completed? Is it when the booster is off the drone ship, or what?
The actual mission itself, right when the payload is deployed successfully or not. 'Cause at that point, the payload is on its own and is completely separate from the launch vehicle itself. So, definitely mission itself, once the satellites are out. Obviously, the mission for the launch vehicle is different in that, especially if it is a reusable launch vehicle like Falcon 9 is, at least on the first stage, and the fairings, those have, I guess, a different mission compared to the payload, in that those are aimed to come down and be recovered either out of the water or via a drone ship out in the ocean. So, just for the actual mission's sake, right at payload deploy.
Yep. So we will hopefully see that. We'll get to that point later. We don't see payload deploy anymore. But what we do see is the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent. And there it is on your screen right now. Max, what is this best vent?
Yeah, and it is a rather puffy one tonight. My goodness, that is how you know it is awfully humid out here in Florida. And just as a reminder for those who weren't here for the actual forecast part of the broadcast, it is about 95% humidity out here tonight on the Space Coast with no breeze, so you can practically drink the air. But what you are seeing is liquid oxygen vapor coming out of the vents in the transporter erector as SpaceX begins to throw or flow, I should say, locks through the actual plumbing in the transporter erector to thermally condition them in preparations for stage 2 liquid oxygen load. The last thing you want to have happen is flow any sort of cryogenic fluid through any material or plumbing that is not either at or very near to the actual temperature of said fluid, because you could run into the issue of sudden flash gassing or worst case scenario damage to your plumbing or materials, and that is not that is not good for anybody on the ground or potentially in the vehicle itself, unfortunately. So best to have both the plumbing and the fluids at or very near the same temperatures, and that is what you are seeing now. And as you can also see, the vapor mostly is coming straight down, as there is really next to no breeze out here on the Space Coast tonight. So yes, it is a very thick cloud coming out of that transporter erector right now.
And for the most part, the weather does look good for tonight's Starlink 10 this morning's, Starlink 10-28 launch, where they are conveniently launching 28 V2 mini satellites. The booster that we've been seeing, well, when we can see it, when it's not masked in its sort of frost haze, is B1077-22. And a reminder, if you have questions about the mission, you can tag us at NASA Spaceflight, and we will do our best to answer as many of them as we can. Now, here's a really interesting question, and I'm going to get to a nearby pad with a couple of these. Saad was asking, and I'll throw this one to you first, Alex. When did SpaceX decide to build completely new infrastructure at 39A for Starship? In the early videos, it showed the big Falcon rocket launching from the main launch pad.
Yeah, but that also assumed that Falcon 9 will just be retired a lot earlier, and they really wanted to launch Starship rather quickly. We started hearing about those plans. I think it was like 2017, 2018, when they went from the 12-meter diameter one to the 9-meter diameter Starship. It was not even called Starship at the time. That was BFR, as they mentioned in the name, in the question. But that's one of the things, right, that I remember actually asking Elon on Twitter about it, and saying, like, where are you guys going to put the Starship pad? Because at the time we were sort of thinking, well, is it going to be on the main ramp? Is it going to be like a separate ramp sort of thing? There was even some rumors at the time that they were going to be sharing the same flame trench, right? The same sort of flame bucket and everything, but they were just going to be interchangeable, sort of like they have Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy in the same transporter vector, and you just need to change out the transporter vector a little bit here and there, and being able to roll out and being able to do Falcon Heavy. The same idea we thought was going to be for Starship, because at the time it was going to be horizontally integrated with a massive transporter vector as well. So we thought, well, you just need a separate transporter vector for Starship, right? So you just roll it out, put it on the main ramp. And then Elon said, no, we actually are going to build a separate tower off to the side. And so that was, I think, 2018 when he replied to my tweet asking about it. And, well, 7 years later, here we are.
Yep, you can see on the left side of your screen there those red flashing lights on the Starship Tower, and to the left the fixed service structure that is currently used for Falcon 9. But on this day, 14 years ago, at this exact moment, there was a space shuttle on that launch pad, Space Shuttle Atlantis, which was about 7 hours away from the final flight of the Space Shuttle program. On July 8th, 2011, STS-135 marked the end of the Space Shuttle program, lifting off from that exact launch pad on the left side of your screen. Hard to believe that was 14 years ago. And Sawyer Flex, I was there. I remember just how gray the skies were that night. I mean, it was that day beforehand, everything. It was like a cloud over the human spaceflight program of, well, this is it. We've got no real replacement program. Constellation had been canceled, I believe, at that point. So it was like, where do we go from here? And when will we see humans launch from this pad again? And it took 9 years, but we finally got there. And in fact, Max, the next humans to launch from there will be pretty soon. They've already got the pad set up for the next crew launch, right?
Indeed. Crew 11. So a crew of 4 will be launching aboard SpaceX's Dragon capsule again, hopefully at the very end of July, Crew 11 with NASA. Yeah, there has not been an exact launch date announced yet from NASA other than the late July, early August timeframe, but that should be the very next launch coming out of that launch pad. And it is always a treat seeing Dragon vertical and poised, and also launching out of that pad. It's really something special. But also, that will be the 4th human spaceflight mission from Florida this year, which is remarkable in itself. It just shows you how capable and how usable Dragon really is, and how quickly SpaceX can turn that pad around from, I guess, a normal fairing configuration Falcon or a Falcon Heavy, and the turnaround to a Crew Dragon capable launch pad. So, yes, hopefully not too long from now.
Yep, that's amazing in 7 months to have that many launches now. Again, considering the fact that it's not like you have the shuttle that was also deploying payloads. You have the shuttle building the International Space Station. ISS is pretty much built at this point, and on the verge of deorbit in a couple of years. It's basically just crew launches either to the ISS or private missions like Axiom 4. We had Fram 2 to the poles this year. It's really cool.
And it also uses some of the same hardware that the space shuttle, and fun fact that the Apollo program used as well. If we can put pad A back on the left hand side of the screen, Carson, the fixed service structure that we see to the left of the Starship Tower is leftover hardware from the space shuttle era, um, and that was used to support taking crew up and down to board the actual orbiter itself, while also supporting operations on the solid rocket boosters and the ET, or the external tank, as well. But before that, the actual tower structure from that was taken from one of the mobile launch towers used to support the mighty Saturn V, and so it is still being used today. But also worth noting that the tower you are seeing sort of off to the right of Falcon 9 tonight is a crew access tower over at Slick 40, which gives this pad the brand new capability of launching humans from this launch pad for the first time ever. So, really exciting stuff. But to this point, they have only launched one crew from there, and that being Crew 9 in September of last year. At this point, it is really serving as a backup if they were ever to have something happen to the hardware over at 39A Starship, or if they just have multiple Dragon missions scheduled for once, and it helps to have a second pad capable of flying humans in one location. So hopefully not too long from now we will see the next crew mission flying from 40, but time will tell.
And you were mentioning the fixed service structure, but there's actually a lot more than just that is being reused at 39A, because it's been a storied rocket launch site. And so you've got, for example, the liquid oxygen tank farm that's been upgraded eventually over the years for Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, but it dates back to the Saturn rockets as well. You've got, for example, the water tower, which dates back to the start of the shuttle program, was added precisely because of the solids and whatnot. Even the RP-1 tank farm at the beginning, it used to, like Falcon 9 used the RP-1 tank farm from Saturn V at first. Now they've changed that and they use a new one, but at the beginning they used to use that one. And in the future, maybe Starship will use the old hydrogen sphere that was used for Saturn and shuttle, and it's going to be it's already converted into methane sphere as well for Starship. But yeah, very, very storied launch pad for all types of spaceflight.
Oh yeah, and I saw a question: how many times has SpaceX launched since STS-135? I think the better question is how many had launched before STS-135, and I believe that was 4 Falcon 1s and a single Falcon 9 prior to the end of the shuttle program.
5 Falcon 1s, but yeah.
So, okay, yeah. 5 Falcon 1s and 1 Falcon...
Just off by 1.
All right, 1 Falcon 9 before STS-135. Every other Falcon 9 launch was after the space shuttle was retired. How's that?
No, it was 2 Falcon 9s
I thought there was just one in 2010.
No, there were two. One in June and one in December.
Oh, I forgot
Yeah.
about the December one. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the COTS one, the one that they caught, I guess. What's the COTS? So they caught the original stubby MVAC, I guess, if you will.
Oh.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
thanks for
tell
bringing that
you
up.
they've launched 114 times from 39A if you want that stat.
Yeah, that was a wild time. I remember being out there for the first Falcon 9 that looked so stubby after seeing Shuttle and going, this is our next rocket. This is so sad. This is pathetic. And now it's like, okay, well, here we are. This is our new rocket. Joel Gribben coming in with the $5 super chat. Oh God, who has the best Yoda impression?
Not gonna do it.
Max?
Max? What was
Did
that?
you not? That was Yoda, was it not?
I think Discord Gate cut it off.
Oh no, did it really?
Yeah.
Well, I did it once, and I'm not doing it twice. Sorry.
Beg pardon, you must. There we go. Suppy, thank you for becoming a Red Team member, and Apocalypse Cow, Danger Moo gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you very much for that. Now, it may be hot outside there, but we're about to get some chilly engines, Max, right?
Yeah, in just under a minute, SpaceX should be chilling down all 9 Merlin 1D engines on the bottom of the first stage for similar reasons to why they thermally condition the lines in the transporter erector at the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent, in that you want all of the plumbing and all of the hardware that is going to be in contact with both the RP1 and the liquid oxygen to be at the same temperatures to make sure that everything stays happy and healthy and not explodey. That would not be a good day for anybody either on the ground or just even the vehicle itself. That would make for, well, that would make for some spectacular footage, but hopefully we don't want that. We want Falcon 9 to have a good mission and maintain its reliability as it has to this point. But yeah, that should be happening in literally about 5 seconds from now.
And I know you're literally about to go get your cameras all set up for launch, so as engine chill begins, we will let you get warmed up and ready to go.
Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see y'all on the other side.
All right, so there we go. We are getting into the deep part of the count now for Starlink 10-28, which has 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites aboard the 500th Falcon orbital launch. Did I get that right, Alex?
With the 9 as well.
Falcon
It's
9
Falcon
orbital
9.
launch.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that, yeah.
I'm not blaming you, like really.
But what I will ask you then, Alex, is for the people who are joining and hoping they can see it outside, what is the trajectory again for tonight and where should people look?
Ooh, well, it's gonna go to the northeast, and we get always a lot of people when they do the southern the southeast ones. I see a lot of people in chat that are like, "Oh, I live northeast. I want to see one of these." This is your opportunity, right? We were mentioning before that there's a chance that if you live north enough, right, up north enough of the east coast of the United States, that you may see a jellyfish effect that is, as the second stage goes up and then heads downrange, it starts to get illuminated by the sun because it's going to enter sunlight, and it's going to still be dark on the ground. So you're going to have a very good show on the sky, perhaps. There's already precedents. Last year, around this time of the same month, we had the Starlink Group 8-9 mission also going northeast, and it turned out to also be a jellyfish one. So it was around the same time of day. So yeah, there's a good chance that you might have a jellyfish effect today. So if you're out there, look out. Like just take the opportunity.
Yeah, Booster 4 was actually asking that exact question of, will we see a jellyfish tonight in the Northeast? So keep an eye out. Keep your phones out if you want to take some pictures or video. And if you do get any, please send them to us on our socials. We love seeing them. You could tag NASA Spaceflight on Facebook, Instagram, X, all of those. That'd be really cool. So yeah, we definitely want to see it. And if you're not already following the socials, you'll get all the updates on all the crazy upcoming launches because, as we mentioned earlier, the schedule is not as empty as it seems. Don't worry. 4.5 minutes to go now. We should be coming up on the Strongback retract. Alex, the Strongback. Hey, there they go. Thank you, SpaceX. Strongback does a lot more than some people think, right?
Yeah, I mean, it helps on the integration of the rocket. It helps rolling it out and putting it vertical and things like that. But it also has connections for an intrastage to be able to purge it and everything because you have the MVAC engine there and it's venting and whatnot when they do the chill down and things like that. You've also have the second stage, of course, to be loaded with propellants and all that stuff. And then you also have the volume of the fairing, which also gets its own air conditioning and things like that. I don't think they do that with Starlinks, though. I think Starlinks are built to not need that sort of stuff, but there's payloads out there that sort of need its own air conditioning, and that's what that sort of umbilical works on the Stromback. So there's multiple different things there, and yeah, they do this sort of little retraction first, be able to clear out a little bit for the initial liftoff portion. Then at liftoff, it actually pulls back the entire way because they have these two clamps at the top, right? And they have to open, and you don't want to do that at liftoff. You want to prepare that a little bit ahead of time, few minutes beforehand, so that you have plenty of time to make sure that they actually open. You don't want to be in that position where, you know, the rocket is lifting off, you have to pull back the strom back, and now the clamps don't open. Oops.
I mean, we have seen launches that delayed because they didn't open, but they do appear open. It does appear retracted, and stage 1 is fully fueled with the liquid oxygen, as you heard there. So next up will be wrapping up of all of the propellant loads on board, which is the RP1, the rocket propellant 1, which was already loaded up, and then the liquid oxygen, the LOX, the oxidizer for this one. And of course, we will see one more vent as they finish loading up the fuel and purge the lines of any remaining gases, oxygen, anything that they've got in there. Clear those lines out before a giant rocket with 9 engines passes right by it. This booster, by the way, has flown 21 times previous. This is going to be its 22nd flight. And Alex, what do we have downrange?
We'll have a shortfall of Gravitas for it to land on. Gonna be the 22nd landing for this. Neat. It's gonna be the 22nd landing for this booster. It's going to be, again, on the drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, located a bit offshore of the Carolinas. And it's also going to have those, you see those very sooty fairings, those are also flight proven as well. They're going to be recovered by fairing recovery vessel Doug.
There we go, 90 seconds to go now. You can see it looks a little bit like Vandenberg there. Now they're doing the gas closeout, which is that sort of vent that we were just talking about, clearing out all those lines.
You have it.
And again, it is an extremely humid night there. That is why you see so much of that frost kind of hanging around and the fog and haze around it. We are coming up now in 1 minute where Falcon 9 will enter startup and the onboard computers will take control of the count.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. The tanks are also going to be pressurized to their flight levels. Next up, we should get the call from the launch director, hopefully, that they are go for launch.
Launch director, go for launch.
Thank you, launch director. There we go. Everything is go for tonight's launch. About 30 seconds from now, we will see 28 more Starlink satellites lift off. Again, a reminder, we will stop talking as we get to the after the launch, but it does take a little bit of time for the audio to get to our microphones, which are a couple miles away from the pad. About 10 seconds to go. We'll start by activating the Rainbirds, which act as a bit of a water deluge system before those 9 Merlin 1D engines ignite. And we have ignition and liftoff of the 500th Falcon 9 orbital flight. And it has cleared the tower. 90 seconds into flight, that sound is punchy tonight as Falcon 9 punches through max Q, the maximum aerodynamic forces that are pressed down on the vehicle on its way uphill here. And of course, we will see that plume expand as it gets into the thinner parts of the atmosphere. And boy, you can almost feel the haze
Vehicle is
through
following a
the
nominal
views tonight.
trajectory.
There we go. Vehicle's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. That's what we like to hear. Coming up, it's supposed to do 3 things in rapid succession, starting with MECO, main engine cutoff, and those 9 Merlin 1D engines will shut down, followed by stage separation, and then ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine SES-1. And we get to the blue. Alex, it's the blue.
The blue.
Oh, it's one of the best parts is when it gets to that upper atmosphere and the colors change. Right before that, MECO.
There
main
we go.
engine cutoff. Next up will be stage separation.
Main engine cut off.
And
And
there's ignition.
Stage separation.
yep, that looks like the little line of the MVAC engine. And now
Back
the
startup.
view from SpaceX, and there we go.
Yes, because of the delay, our cameras are a couple seconds ahead, so you get a free replay, so to speak, as we switch views. And
Ooh,
oh, wow.
is that the moon on the booster camera?
That it looks like the moon as those grid fins deploy. That's got to be the moon.
Wow.
And
Speaking of
fairing
deploy.
deploy.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There we go.
And as mentioned, those will actually parachute back down and be picked up and reused again. Oh, the light hitting it, especially as you get that effect with the grid fins popping out. Oh, that was beautiful.
And that's the moon also on the MVAC camera. Look at that. You can see the little dot of the moon.
And chat's
You can
already
even-
chanting moon, moon, moon.
Also there as well. It can be seen on both camera views on the MVAC engine camera. You can almost see the same face of the moon as well, like if you squint a little bit, right? You know what I mean, right?
I know what you mean, yes. You can see it, especially as they flip the 2 different views there on the right side of that Merlin vacuum engine nozzle. That white dot, it's not ice, it's not rats, that is the moon.
Yeah. That's so
Meanwhile,
cool.
on the left side of your screen, we should just about be approaching apogee, the highest point in the trajectory for that first stage booster. And there it is. 117 kilometers up. The speed is just about to stop, and it will pick up again. There it is. It is now on its way downhill. Because even though those engines shut off, it's amazing how long that thing coasts, how
Vehicles
much
are following
momentum it
nominal
still has.
trajectories.
Yeah. It's got still that inertia, and so it's still moving. Just like, Cannonball and things like that. All Newton, man. He already figured it out 400 years ago.
Shout out to the main man, Isaac Newton. What's amazing, again, his laws still held up on the moon. Speaking of, as we keep talking about the moon, when they did the bowling ball and feather experiment.
Yeah. That was
Now a
Apollo
little-
15?
I think that was 15.
Yeah, I think so too.
One thing I do know is we are 5 minutes and 20 seconds into the flight. We should be coming up shortly on the entry burn when it will start by firing 1 engine and then 3 engines to
Ooh.
pull itself down. Look at that. You can see the sunrise starting to come up on parts of the Earth as it continues its trajectory towards the northeast there. Wow.
So yeah, that's your call, because that's the first stage. It sort of lands a lot earlier, I guess, downrange than the second stage, shutting down. We in fact should see that second stage entering sunlight maybe in a couple of minutes from now, like in the last minute or so of that burn. But
Well, we
speaking
should
of
see another
burns,
light. Yeah, we should see a light on the screen any second now. Well, both of us with the transitions there.
Stage
Yep.
1 entry burn startup.
there we go. One
There's the
engine.
single engine. And 3 engines in a line. You can see it because of the graphic and because of that sort of square shape on your screen. And because of the way it is.
It's interesting. The graphic now shows when the engine is
Stage 1
starting
power
up.
shutdown.
Like the little fade in.
It shows it first like a smaller circle as
Both
it's starting
vehicles
up, and then when
follow
it
normal
reaches,
trajectories.
there we go. And when it's fully ignited, then it goes to the full circle. That was cool.
Also, yes, it
That
was
was
a
really fun.
hammer, not a bowling ball. My mistake. But yes, at this point now, we should be coming up shortly on that landing burn. You could see as it gets into the thicker parts of the atmosphere now, the plasma hitting those grid fins, and we should see the drone ship a Shortfall of Gravitas as a little light in the top leftmost grid fin there. And I think you kind of see it as it wiggles there.
Yeah, it's always in that same orientation.
So in just a moment, that will be a
Stage 1
single
transonic.
engine landing burn, where those landing legs will then deploy, and hopefully it will touch down on the surface of the drone ship. And meanwhile, stage 2 continuing its trajectory at this point. But let's keep an eye now on stage 1 as we get ready for that landing burn. 3.5 kilometers up. There we go.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There's that single center engine igniting.
Some people saying that they're seeing the second
We have
stage.
sound.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing leg deployed.
Love
Stage
when you
1
can
landing
hear it.
confirmed.
Love when you can see it. Successful landing. This booster now earning its dash 23. Well done, B1076.
Sunlight. See what we were talking about? It's in sunlight already. That's jellyfish on the ground.
Yes, if you're under the trajectory now, keep an eye out for it. Also amazing how thick the air is that people can still hear the rumble all the way in Orlando now, which is quite far in comparison to where you're normally able to hear it.
There we go.
Oh, look at the light on that
Wow.
plume. Oh, that plume light.
Nominal parking insertion. So that's good. It's in orbit. And the expected one.
That is gorgeous. Oh, I hope some of our viewers got photos of that. That is going to be spectacular. Yes.
Ooh.
And the chat chanted plume, plume, plume. Already replays. Well done, Carson. This is from our fleet cams. We have 2 fleet cams located now at Port Canaveral, including one at Rusty's, which is a restaurant down there. If you're looking for a place to eat and to see boosters being loaded and offloaded, great place to go. Max, do we have you back as we take a look at these replays turning night into day? That was a wild one.
I sure hope you do. Indeed, it was. That was spectacular, and of course, it was very. There was a bit of haze up in the atmosphere today, and obviously, I'm sure you saw it on the stream where it flew through a layer of just moisture and probably lower level pseudo clouds. No, I'd say they're clouds. But yeah, it was gorgeous as always, and if anything, that view from the upper stage towards Seco 1 was just an indicator of how close we came to a full-on jellyfish this morning. If it had launched maybe 40 minutes later, maybe it would have been a much different visual experience here in Florida and for everyone else here as well. But man, we were so close. So close.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
close.
I don't know if you remember, Max. Last year when I was traveling to the US, there was this Starlink launch, like literally as I was flying over there, and I remember watching it on my phone as I was in the flight. And you were talking about, oh, there's not a jellyfish because it's too
Yeah.
early, and there was a jellyfish, and it was around this time of the night, but it was a little bit later. It was actually 4:55 instead of 4:21. So it was like what you said, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, a little bit later.
Yep.
And so it was seen in Florida.
I do remember.
And the sound seemed like it took a little while to get there too. So let's listen in on this one. This replay has the audio on it. Let's see if you can hear that delay.
Let's see. Or let's hear, I guess.
Yeah, because normally by now we would start hearing it usually. So we're at the camera's at the exact same spot. But man, that thick air made it linger.
Here it comes.
You can still hear it too.
Yeah, the fact that there were people that heard it, Max, all the way in Orlando. I don't think people realize the distance between the Cape and Orlando. The Cape is much further east, so for it to be heard that far west, it takes a thick atmosphere, right?
Yeah, it's about 45 minutes to an hour inland, depending on traffic on 528 or whatever highway you use to get into the area. But yes, it is not close, and that is certainly an impressive distance to be hearing a launch. We heard it here on the ground here at KSC, well into second stage flight, which was remarkable in itself. Yes, an incredibly dense atmosphere today, which made the audio or the audio the experience with the sound and the acoustics tonight all that much more vivid. And hopefully the VAB squeal came through decently enough through the mic, because it certainly did here tonight. I almost heard that before I heard the main bass from the actual rocket itself this evening, which was pretty weird. I can't really say I've heard that before, but it's always spectacular.
That is bizarre. Yeah, it was a little hard to hear because, again, the sound was so thick. You could just hear the rumble over everything. It's there if you know what you're listening for, but otherwise, man, that was good. But yeah, and again, I see people have taken videos and pictures. Add it to us on the socials. We really want to see it. I love seeing them at least. So tag NASA Spaceflight on your favorite social media channel, wherever you post it. I want to see it. While you're there, you can also follow it too. But yeah, one of you tonight, there they are on the corner of your screen. Alex, we are going to be hearing you again later this week for those who missed earlier, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna have Europe's Future in Space, another show this Wednesday with Pangea Aerospace, European Aerospikes. We're gonna have the CEO on our show, so you know the drill. Just go to our channel, go to the live tab section, and you'll see that live stream already public for people to hit the notification bell and whatnot, and you're going to be notified when we go live. That should be on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central European time. Should be neat. I mean, I know a lot of people out there like Aerospikes. If you have any questions, you know the drill. We'll do all the stuff, at NASA Spaceflight and whatnot. So come on onto the live stream. We'll ask their CEO lots of questions about European Aerospikes.
Yeah, Alex, thank you for joining us tonight as well. Well, this morning's whatever time of day it is for commentary as the transporter erector already going back up.
Yeah, preparing for the next launch, hopefully this weekend, and then another one later in next week, and then another one. Whatever you see on all of the apps, even our own Next Spaceflight app, that's just the current best information that we have. There's many more launches out there, so keep an eye on that, and keep using also the app. You're gonna get notified when new launches.
Yes, and when those launches happen, there's a good chance Max will be one of the people out there covering it. Max, thank you so much for rolling out this morning.
I sure hope so, at least. But yes, it has been a pleasure as always, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to hang out at, well, what is for us in the U.S. a rather ungodly hour in the morning. But always happy to come out and give views of these epic launches to everybody.
Yes, and now we're going to try and fall asleep as the sun rises. But Carson has been the one that showed us night turning into day, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, producing the stream today. Thank you for that. I'm Sawyer Rosenstein. I have been your host for the Starlink 10-28 mission. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FTD off. Say again, FTD off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?